Hey guys, Kale here. So, magyar állampolgár vagyok, which means I am a Hungarian citizen. So today, well, meaning yesterday on March 7th, because I record these on Tuesdays and they go up on Wednesdays. But today, past Kale, March 7th, just a couple hours ago, I was sworn in and I took the Hungarian citizenship oath for me and for my son Judah so that we could officially become Hungarian citizens. Now, officially, we're dual citizens. You know, we didn't renounce any citizenship. We're both American and Hungarian citizens. And I did a video a couple months ago about why I was trying to become a citizen. And back then, I didn't realize that it wouldn't be very much longer before I actually would be able to become a citizen, which is really cool. So if you're interested, you can go back and check out that video. I'll put it up here somewhere. But today I wanted to just briefly talk about what I was able to do today and what the process was in a nutshell for becoming a Hungarian citizen. And let me just start off by saying the entire point of becoming a citizen, which I kind of covered in the last video, wasn't just a project or a part-time hobby for me to try and become a citizen because my Hungarian ancestry allows me to be. It wasn't anything like that. It truly was so that we could do the ministry. God opened a door here years ago for us to be able to visit in missions, and then he continued to confirm and to call us to do ministry here in Hungary. And even in 2020, when the entire world stopped because of COVID and with the pandemic, God still continued to confirm and to call us as he helped us fundraise. We started our fundraising, our missionary deputation at the end of 2019, as summer, fall of 2019. And so it was March of 2020 when everything shut down. And we still managed to finish raising our money and get to the field before the end of 2020. And so that's a God thing. He's been with us the whole way. And we knew that it's hard to get into any country, not just as missionaries, but just to live abroad. It's difficult. And there's lots of immigration work and government paperwork and applications and such. And so when I found out years ago that this was a potential opportunity for me to become a citizen, we just knew, man, it would be so much easier to stay here long term and permanently if that's something that we could accomplish. And so truly that's the answer. We're living in the last days, and we saw a couple years ago that global travel could shut down instant. And I'm not naive enough to realize that the enemy can use that to stop global evangelism. And so that was the point of all this, to be able to stay here permanently without worry of getting kicked out or worry of not being able to travel or anything like that. Now we're citizens. We're dual citizens. We have all the rights of Hungarian citizens because we're Hungarian citizens, which is really cool. So let me back up a little bit. And if you don't know my story, my family, I'm actually half Hungarian. My dad is full Hungarian. Now he was I believe it's been a minute since I did all this research. He is the third generation of his family born in the United States, but he's fully Hungarian, which means that even though it was his great grandparents, my great great grandparents who came from Hungary to America, they continued to marry other Hungarians, ethnic Hungarians, while in the States, and particularly Northeast Ohio. And so my dad's parents were both ethnic Hungarians that weren't born in Hungary, and their parents were both ethnic Hungarians who weren't born in Hungary. And their parents, my great-great-grandparents, are the ones who originally came over. So it's just kind of a neat thing. And growing up, we didn't know much about Hungary. Growing up, I was always told you couldn't go to Hungary, but that was before Google and stuff. And all that my dad knew was that Hungary was, a part of the Soviet bloc and was a communist country that was, not really easy to travel to until 89, 90, 91, right in there when the Eastern Bloc started to fall and communism was falling in Europe. And so really it was around, I was born in 91, so it was right around then that Hungary was opening back up, which is really neat. And but I had no idea about any of this stuff. The only thing that we knew really as our family. My grandma knew a few things. They just knew that we were Hungarian, where we were from, names of relatives. We had some different Hungarian foods like paprikash and nolkedli at like Thanksgiving and stuff. But other than a few like little trivia facts, we didn't know that much about our family. And so this whole thing about becoming Hungarian citizens wasn't a thing until a few years ago. Fast forward, in 2014, we had the opportunity to go with Wildwood Baptist Church to minister to orphans and give the gospel, do evangelistic church camps in Hungary. And the reason that we got to do that trip was because the pastor of the church he met me the year prior. Pastor Jeff Bartell introduced me to him, found out that, my family history and stuff, and just invited us to go with this church on a trip, which was super kind, super gracious of them. And long story short, we fell in love with it, kept going back just about every year, sometimes twice a year. And then as I was a pastor on staff at our church from 2015 on, just really start to feel God slowly call us to move to Hungary full time as missionaries to plant a church, and churches in the long term. And so the Hungarian lineage, ancestry is really what opened the door in the first place. But then once we found out, I don't even remember when I found out that this was a thing, but the Hungarian government in 2011 passed this law that basically allowed what they call simplified naturalization if you have Hungarian ancestry. Because of, if you're interested in like European history, because after World War I, Hungary was 66% larger than it is right now on the map. And so after World War I, there was this treaty called Trianon, and they cut Hungary up and gave a bunch of pieces to the countries that border Hungary. And so you'll find Hungarian ethnic minorities in all of the small countries around Hungary. And so I believe that this law was put in place so that ethnic Hungarians could become Hungarian citizens, although they were born outside of the country. All you have to do is prove your lineage using, basically you have to prove your lineage with birth certificates and marriage certificates. And if you were somebody who, you lived in Romania or something like that, and your parents or grandparents were born in Hungary, that wouldn't be very difficult to find the documents and prove. And then you have to speak Hungarian at least at an intermediate level. And so for someone who already speaks Hungarian, not me, but for someone like that living in a small country bordering Hungary, that would be very easy to do. Now, for like an American, such as myself, it's a lot harder because I have to go back 3-4 generations. I have to find all those documents. I have to have them translated into Hungarian. It took a lot of work. Hungarian immigration lawyer office helped me, but then I also had to learn the language. And so I don't speak fluently yet by any means. I'm working on it. But it took me about 1.5 to 2 years to get to an intermediate level to where I could do this interview and submit the application sufficiently in the language. And it's a difficult language. I say this not, to boast, but it's just the reality of, our situation. The country that we moved to, Hungarian is usually somewhere in the top 5 hardest languages in the world is where most people list it. Some people list it like at 3rd, just under like Mandarin Chinese and languages like that, and Arabic. But it's up there in the top 5. It's really difficult. And so we have a long ways to go, but we've come a long ways too, which is really cool. And so it's allowed me to be able to get to where we're at today. So fast forward, after about 2, maybe closer to 3 years of working on putting together our family tree, lots of people in my family helped. My mom sent documents over the ocean. My dad's aunt and uncle, their names are Jim and Shirley, did a lot of work on helping me put together family tree stuff and figuring out, which ancestor would be the best line to trace through back to Hungary. Because lots of ancestors on my dad's side, on his mom and his dad's side, we have lots of ancestors born in Hungary. You only need one. And so we had to figure out what's the best, most clean way, who has, documents extant that we could go find, other people, ancestors we don't know anything about. So had a lot of help there, and that started before we moved to Hungary. So however long ago that was, dating all the way back to like 2019 and 2020. Starting to do this research, and then once we got to Hungary, I just kind of had it in my back pocket because the language I needed to tackle, and then January of 2021, I started learning the language every day here in Hungary, taking classes, group classes, private classes, 5 days a week. And I think it was the spring of 2022. So I did about a year and a half of study before using the help of an immigration law office, submitting the application, doing the interview, and all of that. And then it wasn't maybe just like a couple months later, or was it sooner than that? It was really soon after turning in the application that I got a phone call from the government. Actually, when I was in Albania visiting our brothers in Albania, I got a call from the government doing a language check, asking me questions and stuff. And it was a little nerve-wracking because I wasn't in Hungarian mode because I was in Albania, so everything was English, but did good enough. And then we went back to America to have our son Isaac in September of 2022. And it was in October that I got an email telling me to schedule an appointment with the government office at my earliest convenience. Now, they didn't say I got it at that point. They just kind of alluded it to it maybe being good news. So I guess it was all the way back in October that the decision would have been made. I just didn't know it at the time. But then once we got back to Hungary in January of 2023, I contacted them, set up an appointment. They told us about the good news. And then, so that was in February. And then just on March 7th, my whole family and some of our friends went down to the government office building in Zuglo, which is the neighborhood that we live in Budapest. And we were down there and filled out some paperwork. There's maybe 15 other people there also becoming citizens. And then they played the national anthem, which is called the Hymnus, and a poem. And then one of the vice mayor of Zuglo came out and said some things, and then they read our names, and we took the oath first, so, like I, Kale Horvath, swear to be a good and lawful citizen, that kind of a thing. And that was really neat. And then after that, they called our names. We went up and received our official documents and all of that. And so, yeah, it's really cool. That's the process has taken several years to do. And a lot of feelings. Like I said, I'm recording this yesterday, and at this point, I'm only 4 or 5 hours removed from doing it, and so not a ton of time to reflect. But I'm super humbled to even have this opportunity to serve the Lord in this country across the world, but then also just honored to be able to have the opportunity to become a Hungarian citizen. The first in my family since our ancestors left the country 100 years ago, seeking for a better life and for freedom in America. And so I'm incredibly thankful to my family for their help. I'm thankful to my ancestors for coming to America and the freedoms that I've just gotten to be born with because of that. I'm thankful for the government of Hungary that allows this process of simplified naturalization so that those with Hungarian ancestry can become citizens and learn the language and learn the culture of our family and our bloodline, which is, I'm just honored, honestly, to be a part of. I'm excited. I'm proud, not in a bad way, but just proud to be a Hungarian. My son, who is almost 5 years old, and both of my sons, of course, but Judah, who's almost 5, he goes to Hungarian kindergarten. He's learning Hungarian in school with other kids. He's going to grow up being bilingual, speaking English, but not just another foreign language, but the language that his ancestors spoke, which is just really neat. And sorry, I don't have a script for this one. This is just what I'm thinking of off the top of my head. I'm excited to have the opportunity to live here permanently. Isaac, our other son, he was born after I had already applied, so we'll have to do some paperwork to get him his citizenship, but it won't be nearly as hard now. Brooke is not a citizen. There is a path for her to become a citizen in the future, because she's married to me now. Well, she has been for 11 years, but because I'm a citizen now, there is a path to that. But honestly, now it's so much easier for her to apply every couple of years for her residence permits, just because we don't have to go through this, missionary visa and all this stuff. It's just, hey, I'm married to a citizen, just applying for my residence permit. And so that's a really cool thing. So me and Judah and Isaac eventually will work on getting our Hungarian passports. So I'll have 2 passports. Again, just super honored, humbled, excited. It's just one thing that's a part of us living and ministering here in Hungary, but it's just going to make things a lot easier. We're working on planning our church this year in Budapest, starting our church, being able to found something like a church and potentially even, buy property or a building someday will be so much easier because I'm a citizen. There's so many doors that are open now just because of this, and that's all truly just thanks to God for opening the doors, for blessing us with these opportunities and allowing us to continue to step through them. And I'm just thankful today. Truly haven't had time to ruminate on all of this. But I'm sure I'll talk about it again in the future, and even just some of the things that we have to learn with different government websites, and because we're citizens now, so we have duties as citizens, and we need to learn all that and be good citizens, not just people who live here and take. So I'm excited for that journey, and just excited to see what the Lord has in store for our family and for the ministry here in the future as we look to start a Bible preaching and a disciple making church in Budapest. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for those of you who support and pray for us. It means a lot. Please continue to do that, because if I'm sure of anything, it's that the enemy doesn't like any kind of ministry, of course, but certainly when we go over across the ocean to be on the front lines of the battlefield, he certainly doesn't like that. And I'm sure this isn't this accomplishment isn't something that he likes. And so please just pray for spiritual protection for our family and in the ministry, and that that God would continue to put a hedge of protection around us and just give us the opportunities and the open doors to minister to Hungarians and to share the gospel and to plant a church and to make disciples. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can catch this podcast again next week, same time, same place, here on Ministry and Missions Unfiltered. See ya.